We say our farewells to Dalinga, and we say hello to Rodrigo Figueroa. Welcome back to Youth to Gold. Last season, we won the Coupe de France for the very first time.
That's my guy! That's my guy!
But we are still some way off the Champions League.
I'm a fighter and not a quitter.
We eventually lost to the winners, Manchester United. And Casemiro, who scored in that final, lifted the trophy on his final game before retirement. There were some fantastic comments left on the last episode, but this one from Alexander is the winner for me.
Great banter.
I had to go to a meeting to persuade the board to upgrade the training facilities. And I was also shocked to see Doué being the 4th highest shirt sold last season, because I am trying to thin out the first team squad.
But there's one problem.
Players like Asp Jensen are basically refusing to leave. Cesar Brazil left though, never really developed. Did make £17 million on though and barely played him.
Sometimes my genius is... it's almost frightening.
I'm looking at Schuster and I can't work out if he's the best player in my team or if all of his good attributes make him absolutely useless. What do you think? Right, so Figueroa, what a player this is, and for just £4.2 million. People keep commenting how I find these players, so I screenshotted the exact moment with these attributes I look to find him through attribute searching. So if you want a full video on how I do it, then let me know down in the comment section, and if you hit 1,000 likes, I'll do a full breakdown next week, I promise. As we move into August then, let's take a look at some transfers. Now, Asp Jensen has finally left the club, moving to Napoli for only £6.25 million. I also sold Dalinga for only £4 million, but he was 27 and not really playing a lot of games, so his value has plummeted. Loaned out a few players as well, but let's take a look at some of the players on the ins. I signed a player from my rivals, Bordeaux. He's definitely going to be one for the future and definitely not for now. He's 18 years of age, but still a long way to progress. Only £2.8 million. David Paire, though, came in from Nantes on a free transfer. Again, we won't see him for a while. He is another right-sided midfielder, but for a free transfer, I think it's definitely worth it. But we have got a lot of players coming in here. And remember, we've also got Juan Jose, who joins us now after his loan spell from when we signed him in January. He will be a permanent fixture in our side and probably look to actually use him now. We have also signed Elliot Van Asch from Club Brugge. Not a bad signing there. Klaus Fleischhacker. Yeah, I don't know why I do it to myself. I signed the hardest names. He's a good right back, though. Definitely one for the future as well. Vaselinov. This one could actually be getting in the starting 11 if he manages to push out Illich, but I don't know whether he'll be able to do that because he's predominantly a left-sided player. Does look quite good, though. Bulgarian, 19 years of age. From Lech Poznan. This could be one in the future. He was English, playing in the Polish division. He's obviously got a dual nationality, 17 years of age. As a centre-back, probably not going to see him for a while. Another centre-back, though, who could be on the cusp if we need it, if we have some injuries, is Sandu, 6'1". He's 18 years of age with good jumping reach, very good leadership positioning, and those technical attributes as a defender. The Trophy de Champions against PSG, and we had a few injuries from our strongest 11. PSG overwhelmed us because of this, unfortunately. Ideally, if everybody was fit and healthy, this would be our starting 11 and my strongest team, so no new signings actually push any players out. Figueroa came close, but I didn't know who to drop from these three unbelievable strikers. So I didn't, and I kept my trust in them from last year to get the job done, and that's exactly what they did in the first game of the season when they defeated Nice 4-1. At home as well, Mateo Cassou bagged himself a hat-trick, and Daisuke Sakai also scored after his corner was cleared back to his direction. After Cassou scored his third and our fourth of the game, Nice finally contributed with their first shot on target throughout the whole match. And with PSG in the third fixture, I was overjoyed with a 5-0 win against Brest.
Giggity.
And what a game it was for us too. And at first, Alfonso's run was blocked off. Cassou then found him again, and he managed to get the first goal of the game. And we hounded their midfield, and when Musiala lost the ball, it was quickly played forward to Alfonso again, and there was no chance the keeper was gonna save that. In the second half, we still didn't give them a look in, and Illich cut inside, and his shot for the third goal was the cherry on top of a very nice cake. But Figueroa's first goal for the club was only a 95th minute equaliser and a 2-2 draw to Clermont. Some interesting fixtures in the Champions League, and we stuck with the 4 players up top tactic against Young Boys, and it definitely paid off. 7-0 and 32 shots on goal. The Lazio game in the same month was actually a really tight game, but you wouldn't have thought so if we went 3-0 up through Alfonso places and Figueroa getting on the score sheet before Lazio first found the net. Highlight of the month though is definitely this 3-1 win against Rennes. But it was all wins in September with Bordeaux in the derby only on the last day to play.
There's been a red card.
And like any derby, things were always going to be tight, and at 0-0 in the 71st minute, Karabali lost the ball and hacked the player down from behind and received a straight red card to a standing ovation from the home crowd. What a hero. And it seemed to spare on our players as well, as that is when we went down to 10 men that we kicked on and scored through Cassou in the 83rd minute. He then got a second one in the 87th minute, and the game was done and dusted in the 90th minute through Serbian midfielder Šušnjar. Right now, that leaves us top of both the league and the Champions League. And we followed that momentum in October with 2 draws with Lens and Sporting. Thankfully, we shook it off against Lyon and got back to winning ways, putting 3 goals past them in a fairly dominant home 3-1 triumph, with their goal coming from basically the last kick of the game. And then we lost 2-1. We reverted back to the previous tactic against Atletico, and it paid off when Alfonso Places scored the only goal of the game. But in the other Champions League game in November, we carried on with the 3 up top, and our best performance yet in this competition happened when we completely embarrassed one of the biggest European clubs, Bayern Munich, 3-0, with Alfonso scoring 2 and Figueroa also picking 1 up. And we are actually still top of the league phase. But it was back-to-back losses in the league though. But after a 2-1 win against Saint Etienne to get us back on track, Šušnjar scored in the first minute against Monaco, and we eventually put the game to bed in the 78th minute. Back on form. And we carried that form into the next game against Lorient with 3 first half goals, looking really in control of the match and really clinical too, not giving them any hope of even threatening our goal. That was until the second half, where we parted like the Red Sea and let them score 4 goals from 5 shots on target and lost 4-3. Ironically, our best performances have been in the Champions League this season. Although the slip-up against Lorient was our only blunder of the month, we really took it out on our next few opponents, Strasbourg and the 2 lower league clubs in the cup. Once again, we have the European Golden Boy winner, and Mbappe's dominance of the Ballon d'Or reaches 6 in a row. Although Alfonso Places placed second in the World Footballer of the Year. Because of registration issues, we sold Soria back to River Plate for so much more than what we actually bought him for. Bayern Munich then came in with a couple of bids for Skoufalis, both of which I rejected. But our main concern this transfer window was securing some new contracts for Alfonso Places for another 5 years, as well as Ilić.
I like it.
My comment about being good in the Champions League didn't age well at all. Although we did actually qualify through the top 8 of the league phase with another huge 3-1 win against Chelsea, with goals from Cassou, Skoufalis and Ilić to put them away, sitting us in 3rd place as it finished. We started out the month in the league with a cracking performance against Clermont. We put 3 goals past them without reply, only allowed them to have 1 shot on target as well. And we followed that with a win against Reims. And going into our game against Brest, the current leaders of the league, PSG, were beaten by Montpellier, and with a win, we could go top. But with some injuries and suspensions, Richard Vincent got a start and scored 2 goals to send us to the top of the league and droop Brest into the relegation battle. A 2-1 cup win finished January, and a derby match followed right after. But first, we did spend some money in January and 3 youth prospects that will fill out our reserves for now. Those 3 signings took our tally up to £24.5 million, and we have already sold £68 million this season, youth to gold. The derby was a 5-star performance for us. Places scoring, Mateo Cassou finishing a penalty for a change. We even had an unbelievable free kick scored by Datsuke Sakai right into the top corner. Our Serbian midfielder Šušnjar got himself the 4th goal, but the best was Ilić, who picks up the ball down on the byline, turns with so many players around him, eventually gets himself into the box and smashed it home to score the 5th. 4-0 against Lille followed. They must absolutely hate playing us. And a 4-3 in the cup against Saint Etienne. A 4-1 against Marseille. But an annoying 3-3 draw with Rennes following a Kalamuendu 88th minute equaliser.
Cheers, Jeff.
But it's PSG next, followed by Benfica in the Champions League. And what a performance it was. Despite us missing a few first team players again, you never would have guessed it, as we scored 2 goals in 7 minutes through Alfonso Places. PSG thought thought they got themselves back into it, scoring just a minute later, but in the second half, we put them out of reach with another 2 goals. First from Figueroa, and then Alphonso Places picked up his hat-trick. This game had it all though, including an Mbappe missed penalty and a straight red card from an academy graduate, Tom Domengue, who recklessly chopped down Rodrigo. Unfortunately though, our trip to Portugal 3 days later wasn't so prosperous and signalled the end of our Champions League run again. But in the second leg, we scored really early, giving us a little bit of hope. And then João Mario scored for Benfica from kickoff, and we were back at square one. But that's fine. With our strike force, everything is possible. And it only took a couple of goals from Mateo Cassou, and we were level across the tie. And then academy graduate Richard Vincent popped up with the decider in the 83rd minute to put us into the quarterfinals. He hasn't developed as well as what the other strikers have in the side, but he's provided some clutch moments. With a couple more league wins, we stay ahead of PSG on goal difference with a game in hand, with Leipzig to play in the UEFA Champions League and Monaco in the semi-final of the Coupe de France.
Here we go.
April was quite fun. With the most goals I've ever seen in a calendar month, it started with a 3-0 win against Leipzig in the Champions League quarter-final. A massive result where we completely overwhelmed them and put one foot into the semi-final of our ultimate goal of winning the Champions League. We did lose the second leg, but nonetheless, we were through to the furthest point we have ever been. The Spaniard Alphonso Places is just simply incredible, and we all know it. But even for him, scoring 10 goals in 3 games is mental. He actually scored in the league game before this run too, but his first hat-trick came against Lens in a 7-2 win. He then got 4 goals against Monaco in another 7-2 win again, this time in the Coupe de France, and he followed that with yet another hat-trick against Lorient in a 6-3 victory. 3 games in a row with 9 goals as well. Unfortunately, that is where our goal-scoring exploits dried up somewhat when a trip to the Bernabeu followed and a 5-1 loss ensued.
Damn it, Carl!
And we ended the month beating Monaco 8-4 in the league.
That's too easy!
What a month that was. 54 goals in 8 games of football. And look what's to come, a semi-final second leg, followed by a cup final against Rennes. But hold on a second. In the same game week as we beat Monaco, the night before that, our old friends Rennes beat PSG on a Friday night. And guess what that means? Yes, you are reading that correctly. We are the champions of France.
Oh, let's go! That's class!
But hold on right there again, because a consortium is taking over the club and a transfer embargo has been put in place. But as if things couldn't get any more bonkers, we welcome Real Madrid for the second leg. Lucas Mendoza puts the ball in the net and it's game on. Remember our new signing Figueroa? Well, he then scored a second goal to make it 5-3 on aggregate. And then Mateo Cassou popped up and it's all of a sudden a 5-4 and we are just a goal away. But unfortunately, that's where we run out of steam and Real Madrid scored through Camavinga. And then they sealed the tie off, putting themselves into the final through a Valverde finish. But I still believed, and I think the fans would be ecstatic with this finish to the season. Can we at least do the domestic double and dominate France, though?
Go on, man.
Well, it was a day to forget. If you were a Rennes fan, because we completely dominated them 4-0. Alphonso Places scored 2 goals in 3 minutes, and Richard Vincent got 1 before half-time. We restricted them to very little, and when Scoufales scored the 4th, the Rennes fans were already off to beat the traffic home. What a season that was. We won our last 2 league games and finished 7 points clear of PSG in second place. Semi-finalists in the Champions League we will definitely take, and back-to-back winners of the Coupe de France. The statistics for the league season were dominated by Toulouse players, including Alphonso Places as top scorer and 3 different Toulouse players as the top 3 assisters in the league. It was a record number of goals scored this season in general, but we all want to know what's going to happen next with this consortium takeover.
Headed for the riverside, around us fuss and fly.